Yeah, no, you have to open up the.
That's what he said.
Yep.
I'll call this Cocalico Township Supervisor meeting to order, July 18th. Please rise and pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please silence your cell phones if you have it with you. This meeting was duly advertised July the 10th for all your information. We'll continue with the adoption of the minutes for our meeting June 20th. Any additions or corrections to those minutes?
I make a motion minutes be accepted as presented.
And I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Department reports. Chief.
Good morning.
Morning, Chief.
Reminder that National Night Out is August 6th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Williamstown Park. Hopefully we have good weather. It is a rain or shine event, so we will be out there. Hopefully there's a lot of community members there. Yesterday we learned that our record system, in conjunction with some of the other programs we use in the cars, got shut down. It was because the server was moved from county IT to the city police department, and the departments that are staying with that program, it's called Mobile Cop. They upgraded to the next version. The departments that aren't staying with that didn't bother to upgrade because it would have been costly. So I was on the phone yesterday for quite a while with a number of different people trying to figure out what we're going to do, and the fix is hopefully a short-term use of another program which is free. It's not anywhere as capable as the others, but the new InfoShare program that we're using and getting much better at has a program within it, and the server was just delivered to county-wide communication. Well, it's being delivered today. So it should be a short interim thing. Shouldn't see any issues with it or problems. And then we will be switching over in September to a new e-software for ticket filing electronic. We currently use one, but we're going to be switching to a new one in the near future. And I assume it's going to be a moot point after talking with Scott in reference to the agenda items today, but I spoke to Dave Lutz, and the cooperation with the school district continues. They were planning on going into Heatherwoods to pick up the kids at the cul-de-sac instead of doing it on Hill Road. Again, I think that will change today with everything going on, but the school district was more than willing to try to accommodate and keep the safety in mind with the kids. So that was a good meeting I had with Dave. So that's it.
Any comments or questions for the Chief? Thank you, Chief.
Sure.
Zoning Officer, Tony.
Yes, good morning, everybody. You should have a copy of my report. In addition to the report, we had one request, I believe the supervisors have an email request from Earth, Turf, and Wood. I was out on site with the Conservation District and also with our MS4 technician. The property has an outdoor storage area to the rear of the property for their landscaping materials. It has not been compliant over several months, but we met to discuss the requirements of compliance and also the screening issues with adjacent residential properties. The folks at Earth, Turf, and Wood request of the board to install the screening materials in the fall, so it's a prime planting season for trees, shrubs, that type of thing. Putting up fencing would certainly work, but the benefit with the screening materials, meaning the evergreens, will grow to a lot taller height in time. Now the ordinance does state that the screening materials should be placed accordingly so that within 2 seasons they grow together and create a visual blockage. And that's what we're bringing before the board for your feedback.
And that was also part of our meeting where the conservation district was back there too.
Correct.
Basically inspecting the whole grounds. There's some compliance issues that have to be taken care of back there too.
Correct, and they're currently doing a site plan for that storage area to be compliant.
So,
Well, I'd like to know when they say fall, what do they mean? I mean, these people have been very negligent in taking care of that property since they've been there. It looks- If I lived next door there, I'd have been in here every day fussing about it. But
I was stopped at Weaver's by a neighbor.
I know.
That was
Their letter, Mr. McAlee, states October is when they're asking for a time extension, so
But they'll have it done or they're
it'll
gonna
start in October.
It'll start in October.
Yeah, in your packet, there's a letter from Mary Dresser.
Yeah, I
Has
just,
that.
what, do they give you an idea how long it's gonna take? I mean, we've been promised things before and it hasn't happened. That's the part
Well,
that bothers me.
that's why we actually brought it on as a motion in the board, we're elevating it to the board level that there's gonna be a time delay to October, but that, with it being by motion of the board, it's now enforceable.
But again, did they give a drop dead date when they're gonna have it done? It just said they're gonna start, right?
And it just says start in October.
Based on the conversation with their landscape architect, they need a good week to 2 weeks to actually get everything installed and planted.
But just to formalize, I actually wanted this to get to the board level. So what it is, the motion is to allow Earth and Turf Wood to delay installing landscape screening until October as requested. It says it's something basic that's acknowledging that they are on the hook to do the work, but they are requesting a delay until October.
Tony, they need a couple of weeks to get that done.
Normally, October slows up for them, and they'll have the manpower and also the equipment to do the job.
So-
That's what was conveyed tonight.
So let me propose this as a balance to earth, turf, and wood, and for some of Doug's concerns, how about we add to that motion that all work will be completed prior to the end of October? Is that okay? Because that gives them, that should give them a roughly 30-day window to get that completed, started and completed,
I believe that'll be adequate.
okay?
So
So I'll
you
make
made that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Those no, motion carried. Thank you. Anything else?
Due to the long agenda, as you can see, my report is quite lengthy. I would be happy to help and answer questions if you like, but just to keep the meeting moving on. So,
Okay, anybody have any questions of Tony? Okay, we'll move on.
thank you.
Thank you, Tony. List of bills.
Okay, we have a list of bills and they are as follows. We have a total general fund of $248,160.40. We have a total state fund of $5,774.19. A total light fund of $12,819.85. A total hydrant fund of $14,895. Total capital reserve fund of $311 and a total rec fund of $1,651.78. Questions?
I'll make a motion that those be paid as presented.
I'll second same.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those no, motion carried. Thank you. Transfer of funds.
Mr. Chair, you have in your packet and I'll read the motion. The motion is to reallocate 2019 unencumbered budgeted monies in the Highway Department from account number 0143070.7, capital purchase, to account number 0143022, highway supplies, in the amount of $20,000 for the purchase of additional 2019 supplies with Pioneer Research. You have a little bit of background about the over budget. This was basically, to be honest with you, just a budgeting mistake. These are routine supplies that we order each year. We did add a new product in there that is a pre-treatment before salt gets put into a truck in order to help facilitate cleaning after the fact. But the tar remover and other DEF and stuff is stuff that we normally order each year. I will be corrected in the 2020 budget, and the amount that's being transferred, we do not need that for that snow cover for this year. That would be a budget line item for next year. So with the board's approval, we would like to make that transfer.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Thank you. Just for the board's records, we're talking about road crew items too. As you remember at our last meeting a month ago, the roadside mower was down for maintenance. It was a clutch that went out. It's the 5th time now. It's a dry clutch system, which is actually not an appropriate system for stop and go roadside mowing. So it might have been a good deal. Sometimes good deals are not good deals when they bought that mower in 2002. It is planned to be replaced in the 2020 budget. It has had 8 major service calls, 5 of which have been to replace the clutch. Over the last 17 years, it is a very unreliable mower. The reason I bring it up is it just came back from the shop, so we are a month late in mowing the right of way. A couple people have asked what the deal is, and I've given them a response that the mower has been in the shop for the last month and that the mowing will be resuming next week. So just in case somebody asks you about that, what's going on at this point.
Okay, moving on to land planning.
All right, first item on the agenda is presidential cabinets. And Tom Madison is here from Dean to fill in for Dave Weeks. This was previously before you back on May 16th. It's the expansion of proposed expansion of a cabinet making shop on Louch Road. The project had prior zoning hearing board approval or a decision related to the property. We've since worked through a plan review with them. They submitted an updated plan. They satisfied the County Conservation District relative to E&S. Back in May, you approved certain deferrals and waivers relative to the development of the property, deferral of frontage improvements and so forth. So really where we're at today, this morning, is we proceed with conditional approval of the project and also document authorization to sign certain legal documents, stormwater management. So I wasn't going to dive in it any further, or make Tom dive in any further. If there's any questions, Tony and I can certainly answer those. And if not, the first motion before you then would be to grant conditional plan approval to the presidential cabinet preliminary final land development plan, conditioned upon the applicant resolving all outstanding items as outlined in the Becker Engineering Review Letter dated July 16, 2019, to the satisfaction of the township, township solicitor, township engineer, and township zoning officer.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next would be a motion to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign the stormwater management easement agreement for the presidential cabinet preliminary final subdivision land development as prepared by the township solicitor when executed by the applicant.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that one.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next would be a motion to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign the improvement guarantee agreement when prepared by the township solicitor, when executed by the applicant, and submitted to the township with accompanying financial security in an amount of and form acceptable to the township, township engineer, and township solicitor.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
The final motion would be to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign the presidential cabinet's preliminary final subdivision land development plan when appropriately signed by the applicant, presented to the township following satisfaction of the outstanding conditions of approval.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
We'll proceed to work with Dean and the applicant on the outstanding items. If there's any resolving motions necessary, we certainly bring those back as an example, or rec fee or any other items. So, next item on the agenda is the Ingham's powder coating final land development plan. With a brief background, this project actually had some origin back in around 2012, I believe, when a very similar, almost identical expansion was proposed, taken through certain aspects of the review process, and the applicant at the time shifted gears and I think acquired the facility at Industrial Way. Fast forward, they recently resubmitted the plan, an updated asked a version of the plan showing an expansion to the existing facility. I think the expansion of 5,300 or something square feet. And that was preceded by some preliminary pre-application meetings and discussions with the township to coordinate certain items. They proceeded to acquire a PennDOT highway occupancy permit for the existing driveway, which was a requirement or discussion the township had with them. The Township Planning Commission reviewed the plan May 20th and recommended conditional approval of the plan and approval of various waivers, deferrals, and modifications associated with the plan. The county commented on the plan, essentially did not comment on the plan because County Planning Commission had no further comments. And I think the applicant is in the process of wrapping up a minor item with the Lancaster County Conservation District on erosion and sedimentation control measures. They were not required to have an NPDES permit because the size of the project disturbance was under an acre. So the intent today, obviously there's representatives here if you want some further background from their side relative to the project. The intent today would be to get action on the various, and there's quite a few, deferrals and waiver modifications related to the project, and then similar to presidential cabinets, authorize signature of the plan and legal documents when outstanding conditions are satisfied in the future. You can let me know your way. Do you have anything you want to clarify?
Yeah, pretty much went through that pretty well. I can explain anything more if the board has any questions, but yeah, like he said, we were here in 2012, and the plan was actually conditionally approved at that point.
Right.
So
what's the targeted dates to break ground and open now?
yesterday.
Okay. No,
Seriously,
that's
they're
great. That's what I wanna
chomping at the
hear.
bit.
Or the day before.
As soon as we are wrapped up.
So Monday morning you can
Yeah.
break ground.
I think at this point, we're thinking around September 1 until we wrap up the remaining issues, and third-party agency approvals and, go through letter of credit and plan signing and so forth. The hope is to get the plan recorded and get construction started around the beginning of September.
Okay, good.
Hopefully it's not raining then.
All right,
That's
proceed. The first motion is related to the plan processing, allowing the plan to be submitted as a single final plan instead of combined preliminary final. So the motion would be to approve a waiver modification of the requirements of section 194.9 of the subdivision land development ordinance to authorize the plan to be submitted and reviewed as a final plan meeting the requirements of both preliminary plan and final plan.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next is related to a deferral of roadway improvements. There will be three by the time we're all said and done. One related to road widening, one related to curb, and one related to sidewalk. So they'll cover at different times here. The first one is related to the widening. So the motion would be to approve a deferral of the requirements of section 194.25C1 of the subdivision land development ordinance related to required improvements to the adjacent public roadway, Route 272, conditioned upon notation satisfactory to the township being placed on the plan documenting the deferral and associated future responsibility of the property owner.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next relates to a modification of the clear site triangle, and we've done this on other projects based on the use of the drive and the volume of the drive and so forth. So the motion would be, and this was reviewed with Scott, motion to approve a waiver modification requirements of section 194.25L5 of the subdivision land development ordinance related to clear site triangles to authorize the use of a clear site triangle measuring 46 feet along the center line of the access drive as measured from the roadway center line and 100 feet in both directions along Route 272.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
There are several waiver modifications related to the access drive. Well, there's two related to the access drive width. The request as it came in was to utilize the existing drive in its current form and not require widening. for the planning commission and other discussions, it was previously conditioned on the applicant being required to get a highway occupancy permit for the drive in its current configuration. And since they satisfied that, that's been dropped. So the motion would be to approve a waiver modification of the requirements of section 194-28H of the subdivision land development ordinance related to access drive width to authorize the continued use of the existing access drive, which varies in width from 18 feet to 22 feet.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next would be a motion to approve a waiver modification of the requirements of section 194-30R4 of the subdivision land development ordinance related to the size and type of oversized parking spaces, and that's to authorize the use of the 40-foot by 12-foot spaces as currently shown on the plan.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
As I indicated before, there's two motions related with the access drive. One is the access drive itself, the other is the access drive's connection to off-street loading spaces. So the motion would be to approve a waiver modification of the requirements of section 194-31C, the subdivision land development ordinance related to the size of the access drives to all off-street loading spaces to authorize the use of the existing access drive, which varies in width from 18 to 22 feet.
I would make that motion.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next one relates to screening. There are some issues with the site relative to a large overhead electric line. I forget the exact provider, Medad or who it is. Medad. And as a result, the limitations relative to certain ability to plant plantings within the right of way. So the motion would be to approve a waiver modification of the requirements of section 194-31I of the subdivision land development ordinance related to landscape screening around loading areas and acknowledging the adequacy of the current limited screening as existing and depicted on the plan.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And back to the deferrals, this would be to approve a deferral of the requirements of section 194-32A, the subdivision land development ordinance related to the required installation of sidewalk along the existing public roadway, Route 272, condition upon notation satisfactory to the township being placed on the plan, documenting the deferral and the associated future responsibilities of the property owner.
So for that one, I'll jump in real quick. That's not really part of the debate where we've been talking about the big picture deferral or not. This is a practical deferral
Yeah.
because we have a guide rail right there. We physically cannot put the sidewalk in there. So it's really not part of that discussion right now about what areas of 272 have sidewalk and don't have sidewalk. It's physically impossible to put sidewalk in every area.
The prior comparison would be Dollar General.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
in this situation, they put.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Next motion would be to approve a deferral of the requirements of section 194-33A1, the subdivision land development ordinance related to the required installation of curbing along the existing public roadway, Route 272, condition upon notation satisfactory to the township being placed on the plan, documenting the deferral and the associated future responsibilities of the property owner.
Again, this is not the same argument again with curb, because the curb physically can't be installed because of the guide
There's
rail.
a guy, yeah.
And a culvert, and a.
Culvert, yeah.
I'd make the motion.
And I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Next would be motion to grant conditional plan approval to the Inland Powder Coating Final Land Development Plan, conditioned upon the applicant resolving all outstanding items as outlined in the Becker Engineering Review Letter dated July 17, 2019, to the satisfaction of Township Solicitor, Township Engineer, and Township Zoning Officer.
I would make that,
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And motion to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign the stormwater management easement agreement, the Inland Powder Coating Final Land Development Plan is prepared by the Township Solicitor and when executed by the applicant, property owner.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Any comments or questions?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And motion to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign the improvement guarantee agreement when prepared by the township solicitor and executed by the applicant and submitted to the township with the company of financial security in the amount and form acceptable to the township engineer, township solicitor.
I'll make that motion.
One second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And the final would be a motion to authorize the Board of Supervisors to sign the in-power coating final land development plan when appropriately signed by the applicant, presented to the township following satisfaction of outstanding conditions of approval.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
This is a Lorba eligible project, so are you going to be submitting an application at this point? Okay.
Yeah.
So what will happen is when the application comes in, there'll be a motion that will be waiving the parking rec fees at that point too.
And one other comment for your project. We started the Township Supervisor Liaison Program. Those letters are going to be going out. Kyle's going to get a copy of them. And that's the one where we're assigning one supervisor to every single project within the township, really to facilitate direct communication, cooperation, and cement a close working relationship, okay? So for your project, actually I'm assigned to your project. So I'm going to be reaching out to Kyle, touching base with him, and giving him my cell phone number. Again, not to circumvent any of what we have here, really to just encourage more and more communication and see what you might need any help with that we can facilitate.
Great idea.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one on the list is Heatherwoods Phase 3, and Scott chime in here. The Heatherwoods Phase 3 project, obviously previously approved, under construction, significantly completed. One of the items that was incorporated as part of that project was some improvements to the existing, call it the circle, landscape island, the circle at the intersection of Heatherwoods and Firethorn. During the review process, it was thought that some improvements could be made there relative to signage or markings to try to better delineate intended traffic flows, since now, obviously, additional vehicles will be utilizing that area. I think we'd say what? Some miscommunication, something happened that they showed concrete mountable islands being installed within the existing roadways, and I think Scott will say that wasn't his intent, wasn't the preference really of the township or the road crew for long-term maintenance and other things. So it wasn't dealt with immediately, the project proceeded. Now we're kind of circling back as we're dealing with other items there. So
We have a good working relationship with First Town here, and he made a request, and quite frankly, it wasn't the township's preference to have a mountable curb in there, and basically replace the mountable curb with just line paint, which is more than adequate, and in long term, it's cheaper for the township every couple of years to paint than every 10, 15 years if we repairing and replacing immediately. So that's our preference. It's a very low volume roundabout. What it was, I would call a center planner meeting. What it was originally this got, now what they did is they converted it into what you would call a roundabout nowadays, which is an appropriate use there. But before that, those cars were just turning anywhere. There's nothing to kind of direct where people were going, and so they were just making turns whatever was most convenient. This will be basically directing everybody, going around the circle counterclockwise, like a typical roundabout. The line striping, the signage, so there are the proper crosswalks around there. But it's all being done by paint and sign. It doesn't need to have concrete medians. And our road crew would prefer not to have to be following around the median instead.
yeah, and it wasn't shown on the prior plan, like the preliminary plan of having any of this. This was kind of a next step. Now that some time has passed and we get newer requirements, we understand how it functions. it was worked out with the developer to do something there to try to help it. So the motion I had was to authorize a proposed field change relative to the Heatherwoods Phase 3 plans, to authorize the applicant to install traffic markings at the 4 approaches to the existing Circle Island at the intersection of Firethorn Drive and Heatherwood Lane, satisfactory to Township and Township Transportation Engineer in lieu of proposed concrete mountable islands as currently referenced on the Phase 3 plans.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
I guess the next step, that if the applicant has provided some type of agreement to document, solidify this, do you, what do you think, should we have another motion authorizing them to sign that when it's deemed acceptable to you and Scott and others as far as what's?
I think that's a good idea.
So why don't we make that formal motion to have the board execute the agreement upon satisfaction or satisfactorily prepared by the township solicitor and township manager.
Documented, yeah.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, your motion.
I'll make that. You making it?
I'll make that.
I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
So
Okay.
we'll work together, review what they provided, and ultimately then present it to the board proceeding.
Now, there will be in your August 1st meeting, there will be another agreement for you guys to sign too. If you remember, we're going to be talking about road dedications in a minute, but the road is breaking up where the truck traffic is being going. That is outside of the Lexon bond column. We did videotape the roadway when we went into Phase 3. There was an agreement at that time, verbal, that they would be on the hook for repairs. Subsequently, we went out there a couple times over the last couple months, documented what is wrong, met with Burks and with Gary McEwen. We have a gentleman's agreement that's now going to be formalized into a written agreement where the township is actually going to do the patching. Burks is going to pay for all the patching materials. And then Burks, at the end of Phase 4 and 5, will come in and overlay, put a geotextile and an additional overlay over top of the entire Heatherwoods Lane. I do think that's a good compromise. The road should not be breaking up as bad as it is, and Heatherwoods would actually have a claim to actually go out their court and make a claim that the road was not the part of the first place. And for all default, neither Becker nor myself that were part of the township at that time. I have no idea how that roadway was actually inspected at the time, but given in particular the one large patch area, it tells me it probably was not proof road, although I can't say that one way or the other, but there was a huge soft spot out there that the trucks had just absolutely broken apart. So the compromise is we're going to do the labor for the patching only, and they're going to pay for pretty much most of the cost. And that's kind of the compromise we have. And Chris is ready to start doing the patching work about mid-August. And it will be about a week's worth of the road crew's time to do that. That's the township cost. Pretty much all the rest of the expenses being paid for by Burks.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is Irvin S. and Sarah M. Fox. This is kind of a routine thing. This project is in adjacent Brecknock Township. It's a small portion of the subject property. The overall farm is located within East Cocalico Township. So standard procedure is to give any municipality impacted by the subject property an opportunity to review the plan. In this case, the portion of East Cocalico involved on this property is very limited. It's upslope of the improvements. I'd say it's probably 400 or 500 feet from any improvements. Drainage from the proposed improvements stay and continue to pass through Brecknock. So the access is in Brecknock. There's really no reason to be further involved in my opinion, or I assume Tony and Scott. So the Planning Commission considered this request came in from the applicant's consultant. The Planning Commission had an opportunity to discuss it at their meeting, I believe in May. And as a result, a more formalized request has since come in. So the motion would be to approve a deferral of the review of the Irvin S. and Sarah M. Fox final land development plan to Brecknock Township.
I'll make that.
I'll second that.
And just to clarify, the building, when we say land, it's a poultry barn.
Right. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
And the final one I think I have on this, the part of this list is the human surface stormwater management plan, and this was a small stormwater, relatively small stormwater project, and they installed features, so we're at the point where we are recommending release of remaining financial security. So the motion would be to authorize the release of the remaining financial security currently being held by the township in the amount of $5,000 for the human surface stormwater management plan.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Moving on,
Yeah,
to solicitor.
I will speak first and then turn it over to Tom, but I just want to personally thank Tom for all his effort at getting these roadways dedicated. And I also want to give a shout out to Burke's Homes themselves for getting Mike Glass to sign the documents as quickly as he did, given he's a very hard individual to locate, considering there's some court orders out to get him at this point. So, he's not easily locatable, and Burke's Homes was actually able to locate him and got him to sign the documents in rather record fashion. So I was not, originally we were thinking that we might be looking at a couple more months until this would occur, or maybe having a bit of orphan sport to get the right-of-way turned over to the township. Instead, we've had an amicable solution, and we're at the point now of dedicating these roads that have been ready for dedication for 10 years at this point, which will allow the school buses to finally enter into the development and end a lot of the public outcry that's occurred up to this point related to why the kids could not get picked up closer to their homes. So this is a monumental thing, and again, it's because of Tom. Tom's the one that spearheaded this. He's the one that kept us amicable. We had 3 lawyers involved, 3 different parties, plus Mr. Glass himself. So when you look at all the different parties, and basically when this started, it was 18 months ago, and we're at the point now of having a check already received by Lex on already the first security reduction from that check occurring and dedicating the roadways and doing that in 18 months at a record time at this point, given the hurdles that had to be overcome. So I just wanted to give a compliment to Tom and the work that he's done and the work that Brandon's helped out to and kind of just keeping this one moving along. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Goodman.
Okay, we have 6 roads to dedicate in Heatherwoods. First is Cranberry Court, and we have a resolution to be signed by the supervisors. It's 2019-07. Cranberry Court has 767 feet of cartway, and so the first action would be to approve the resolution, adopt resolution 2019-07.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
We have quite a number of resolutions. You want to wait till after the meeting to sign those, or do you want to sign them?
We'll wait till afterwards.
Okay. And in conjunction with that, we have the deed of dedication that we're going to have you sign in addition to the resolution. Okay? Next one would be Firethorn Drive East, and that leads from Hill Road to the traffic circle. And that's resolution 2019-08.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Third one is Firethorn Drive West. That is just a small portion of Firethorn Drive after the traffic circle. I think it's 61 feet. And that is resolution 2019-09.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Fourth one is Heatherwoods Lane East, and that's from Hill Road to the traffic circle, and that's resolution 2019-10.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Fifth one is Heatherwoods Lane West, and that's a short section of Heatherwoods Lane after the traffic circle. That's 132 feet in center line length, and that's resolution 2019-11.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Last one is Ironwood Court, which is resolution number 2019-12.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. This is a long time coming.
How many years has that been, Tom? roughly?
Doug might know better.
I think longer than anyone's been on the board.
2 decades minimum, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
3 decades?
it's not quite, not quite.
But it's been over 10 years
Yeah.
now dealing with the developer being bankrupt.
Right, yeah. It's probably been 15, 20 years.
Yeah, I remember it was 2004, I did an inspection of the last section of roadway there. So it would have been ready at that point to be offered for dedication.
Okay. Heatherwood Phase 1A and 2 security reduction.
I'm going to talk about this, but this is actually the Lexon bond money, and there's a process now. Instead of normally being rent, it's only security reductions. This is more of a legal security reduction now with how that agreement works.
That's being held by Barley Snyder, who is the attorney for Heatherwoods LLC. Lexon forwarded a check to them for $209,562. And they've done a good bit of the work, and the escrow reduction would be to authorize the release of $143,735 from that escrow account.
I don't think anybody's here representing that. Okay.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Sturdy Build.
This again is on this lister, but there is a mistake in the agenda just because of a lot of last minute stuff getting added. It's actually 2 things that are going to be talked about, and they're actually on the side of your packets. It is the request to vacate right-of-way on Stone Hill Road, as well as text amendment. So we have 2 separate requests for them to forward on to review. And the motion is actually revised from your motion list. The motion is to authorize the township solicitor to forward the Sturdy-Built Stone Hill Road vacation ordinance to the Lancaster County Planning Commission for review, comment, and to forward the Sturdy-Built zoning text amendment to the Lancaster County Planning Commission and Planning Commission for review and comment. So this is actually the motion. That's actually the motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the same.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
Now, on that one, Tom has actually been preparing that stuff on behalf of Sturdy-Built. They requested us to take a more active role in assisting them in preparing the legal documents.
Forward zoning map text amendment request by Trackside LLC and Stevens Feed Mill to the Planning Commission and Lancaster County Planning Commission for review.
And this is, first of all, a rezoning map request for 21 and 17 Stevens Road from R3 to LI, and for 28 Stevens Road from R1 to LI. 28 is Stevens Feed Mill property. The other 2 properties are the trackside property. And we're just at the start of this process. Need to forward that to the County Planning Commission for review and comment. You want to do those separate motions or one motion?
Do it as one.
The second thing we have is a text amendment to the LI zoning district. The major part of that is to add 2 permitted uses, one for the ever-popular special events facilities, which everyone's getting in on that. I can't, there must be a lot of people getting married. And the second one is shops, contractors of plumbing, heating, air conditioning to be permitted use in the LI zoning district.
So your formal motion is to forward the zoning map for change in the text amendment request by Trackside LLC and Stevens Speedmill to the Township Planning Commission and Western County Planning Commission for review and comment.
Okay. I'll make a motion.
And I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Heatherwood Phase 3 request to energize PPL streetlights.
Yes, sure, you have that email, and should be an email in your packet, I can flip through here, but this is a request that the residents have made of Burke's Homes to get moving on the lights, as they've been kind of on gangbusters with all the housing development there. They're moving at a pace that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, I know.
And part of the request, I'm kind of looking through here,
It is, yeah.
Karen McCune made a request on July 8th to have the request come from us to PPL, which Tony would reach out to PPL and just make the formal request. And then PPL will install the top light fixtures and will energize the lights. And then we'd also have to pass that information on to our tax collector, because that would start the tax process for the street tax. If First Homes has acknowledged that some of the properties, so a few of the parcels on Phase 3 have still not been sold, which means they would be on the liable for the tax at that point for those parcels. So
They're okay with that.
they're the ones making the ask. So the motion is to, let's get my document here. The motion is to permit PPL to install light fixtures and energize the streetlights for the Heatherwoods Phase 3 development.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Dirt and gravel roadway amendment extension, Buzzard Road and Indian Road.
Mr. Chair, you have an email with the Conservation District, it's in your packet. Originally, we were told that there was going to be absolutely no extensions of this grant program. It was a use or lose period of time. But we talked to the Conservation District, Chris had a couple discussions with them, and we weren't done municipalities. And what was happening was, given the extraordinary amount of rain, since these grants are primarily for storm drainage improvements, you can't be opening up the roadway when things are extremely wet. And so almost every municipality was struggling to complete the work because we just lacked enough dry days to do the storm drainage work that needed to occur. So they've agreed to grant extensions of this with these funds. And so the motion is to grant an amendment to the extension date for Buzzard Road and Indiandale Road until September 30th, 2019. And there's a form in there that will go along with it for a court signature.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Temporary easement agreement for Rose Hill Basin retrofit project 3 Rose Hill Drive.
Right, these are the property owners that are working with us with Rose Hill Basin for a pollution reduction plan. We have a very amicable relationship with them. I think they appreciate that that's probably added, assuming some maintenance that they did not know they had to do. So to say that we had kind of a strong hand when we went into the discussions with them, we did, because we were coming in and saying we're here to help and we actually have money. So that was kind of appreciated by them. This agreement is basically going to allow us the access that we're going to need to actually get into the basin and work. There's going to be another stormwater management agreement, as I'm looking at Brent right now, that we're going to have to kind of prepare down the road. It's going to document long-term maintenance and things along those lines once the new structures are built. It's going to involve more than likely retrofitting the outlet structures, possibly cleaning out some sediment in some areas, and some other work to be determined by land studies and by professional engineering as we actually move forward with the project. But getting these easements in place first to know that we have a viable project is the first step. This is next to the work that we are doing with the Reamstown Park project for pollution reduction plan. This is next on our list. So we want to keep this one moving concurrently with the Reamstown Park project at this time. And I don't know, Brian, if you have anything you want to add at this point?
No, this would be the first step to then allow survey and some other investigations, environmental wetlands investigation to proceed. So until we have authorization and concurrence that somebody's going to work with the township, those efforts are being held off. And so, yeah, and there are two properties. There's 3 and 1.
Right.
So both, one is more for access to the site or possible more convenient access to the site for construction, and the other one is to actually physically be in the area of the basin. So I didn't know the
And
status
Ken's
of
been
both.
doing the meetings with the properties.
Yeah.
So we've had a number, I don't know, Ken, if you have anything you want to add, but we've had a number of good meetings with the owners.
The only reason we need to get for number one, landowners reviewed it, we haven't yet met with them, I believe.
So we're setting up a meeting, we might even have Lisa on call, because if they're ready to go, we're going to do notary on the spot.
Good.
So we get that agreement executed on their end. But it's progressing, this is going to be a good project, it's going to be probably cost us less than what we put in the pollution reduction plan actually do at this point. So, but we don't know yet what the work's going to be on the basin.
Yeah, and I think another first step now that once we confirm the parties interested, is have land studies also do just a final evaluation, confirming exactly what credits we think can be obtained before you go plowing ahead. So there may be some different interpretations on valuing credits and so forth and what needs to be done. Obviously, the goal is to do as sort of physically altering the basin, but maximize your opportunities for credit. And that, so dialing that in will be something that I think land study needs to also take a look at that as we get off and running here.
And as we talked, that basin was actually designed for a whole nother phase of development in the park. There's a lot of extra capacity in there for us to kind of work with. And right now, what's happened too with that box turtle easement that has kind of been acquired for the site, what had been previously farmed has been fallow fields. So we were really not getting the sediment buildup that would have been anticipated to be occurring in the basin either. So it's really just roadway debris, the typical leaves and grass and stuff like that that's made it into the basin, but we're not getting that heavy ag sediment that you would have anticipated if that phase that continued to be farmed.
Some ways that's good, some ways that's good for the impact on the basin, but in terms of pursuing credits, you have to make sure you have adequate, contributing area adequate issues that you're solving an adequately sized problem to get the credit. So that's all part of it.
So, Mr. Chair, the motion is to approve and execute a temporary easement agreement for 3 Rosemont Drive as discussed.
I'll make that motion. I'll second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you.
To clarify then, so back to the other property, is there a similar motion to authorize that if it becomes available, or you want to handle that?
I think hopefully we're handling at the 8-1 meeting.
Okay,
That would be
no, I
the
just
intent.
wanted to understand the target for wrapping that up too, because both are vital, I think.
I just don't want to, that one, the first one is a very amicable situation. The second one, we're just basically going and ask, which is we're going to be driving heavy equipment across the person's backyard, and we're going to be in our easement stating that we will be restoring to back to in-kind conditions before the work occurred. So we've had some initial discussions, but we just don't, never know at this point. And that access is actually critical for the project. The other one, it kind of involves going through some wetland areas and a fire turtle easement, and so there's a little bit more challenges if we have to go the other direction.
And since some of the environmental studies have not been completed because of the alternate, they're kind of all linked, we just want to have various options so that at that point in time, we can say, we have alternatives depending on how we think the best way of accessing the project area is.
VFW car show.
This is Jared's routine request. It's for the car show that's going to be on August 25th. You have the email that they made the request with, and they will be closing Burns Grove Road from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. So your motion will be to approve the VFW car show for Sunday, August 25th, and the road closure of Burns Grove Road from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those no, motion carried. Thank you. Old business, we'll discuss next meeting.
All the old business stuff was moved to the 8-1 meeting.
Yep. New business MS4 discussion, possible project, next permit cycle.
I'm going to turn this over to Mr. McCrae. I'm going to pull up on the screen a presentation that he had for a meeting that occurred last Thursday. So while we were having our meeting, our pre-planning meeting, here, the error message is popping up. This might take a moment. So while we were having our meeting to discuss the black horse, there was another meeting that was simultaneously going on that involved a number of partners to talk about this project. And we're talking about 3 homeowners, Denver Borough, Turnpike, East Cocalico Township, and railroads. So there is the possibility in our next 5-year permit cycle for this to be a major project for our pollution reduction plan. It will require significant funding from grants and other sources to actually pull the project. So with that guy right now. Okay, Ken, the floor is yours.
Okay, if you go ahead to the first figure. Not that. Is that the first map? There we go. Okay, we were approached by a landowner along Little Cocalico Creek, just north of the Turnpike, about possibly doing some stream bank restoration to help control the amount of sediment getting into the creek there, which is fairly significant. On meeting with him, he's already been in contact with a couple of his neighbors about it and had quite a length of stream, over 1,400 feet that he was controlling, that could have been used for this pollution reduction project. Looking at the tax map, I realized there were some other possible opportunities, and we talked to adjacent landowners heading as far south as 3rd Street in Denver and heading as far north to not quite Miller Road, where there had been another stream restoration project already completed up there. It would have led to, if this project were carried out, it would be almost a mile of stream, about 4,900 linear feet of stream. And as he mentioned, involving Denver Borough, Pennsylvania Turnpike, the railroad, and a number of other properties, including a large property south of the Turnpike that's owned by Ralph Good Inc., which is Good's Potato Chips. And at the meeting, we had the very favorable discussions about this. One of the points that's important is that DEP is trying to push joint projects. It isn't just one township or one entity trying to do pollution reduction projects, but getting multiple entities together to do a collaborative project. And this one really fits